Hey, Biff, how does Darth Vader like his toast?
We're doing this again, huh?
On the dark side. On the dark side. And just so I don't get pigeonholed as being the Star Wars guy. Hey, Biff, what did Lieutenant Uhura say to Captain Kirk when the Enterprise was being hit with little shards of ice?
What did Uhura say, Jacques?
We're being hailed. We're being hailed. See, so I got Star Wars and Star Trek. You're welcome, everybody. Hello, Biff.
Yeah, hello, Jacques. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Biff and I were just talking. I guess Guitar Center Scotty had an epic Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, it little as John jokes about bringing out the cones and the family, but there were two just epic goals that really deserved that level of reenactment for posterity. So yeah, no, it was an amazing night.
A big night all over. And how were you behind the pipes last night?
I didn't do squat, but I didn't have that much action, so there you go.
And so we are going to do a sideshow this week. We're going to do musical geniuses. And last week we do
two musical idiots talking about musical geniuses. Right, it's really great.
But it was fun. Like the last breakdown we did of singers and guitarists was, that was a blast.
Yep.
We'll post those final tallies.
We forgot. Yeah, you know what? I never posted that. I mean, I'll have to reply to that thing. By the way, speaking of Uhura, one day we need to talk about it. Have you ever heard the Nichelle Nichols? Is that her name? Nichelle Nichols?
Yep.
The story about her and almost quitting Star Trek and being convinced not to quit Star Trek by Martin Luther King.
It's the two amazing stories.
Yeah.
The two most amazing stories is she was instrumental in getting to the moon and NASA getting funding. There's an amazing story where I'm going to have to go back.
Yeah.
But the fact that after the first season, she was it wasn't the best situation for her, but Martin Luther King basically flat out said you can't. Like the number of girls and black girls and women and the whole community who looks up to you because they see you every she was an amazing person. But definitely but we're going to start off the show with something I've been meaning to ask Biff about for a while.
Okay.
I texted you this week about it.
Yeah.
My little guy, and I just asked him where this came from. I guess it came from Walt from Breaking Bad. And I guess it's got picked up and become a meme. And a few of his YouTubers say it all the time. Sussy Baka.
Sussy Baka. Okay.
Yes. And
Baka is basically an idiot, roughly translated an idiot in Japan. It's kind of used normally as a kind of a noun, as you say, call people that, but you could also use it kind of in adjective form. Essentially, baka mitai means like an idiot, or something that somebody does that's stupid, or something that is kind of stupid, or whatever. It's kind of it's a very commonly used word, but sure, yeah.
I was brushing his hair the other morning, getting ready for school, and he had said it, and I'm like, do you know what that means? Because it might be, I don't know what it means at the time. And he goes, he was half right. He goes, I think it's idiot in French. So I asked my girlfriend Alexa. I said, "Hey Alexa, what is the word?" And she said,
"Did you record what she responded to see if it was another idiotic response?" Or
she did come back. Because I was brushing hair, I couldn't. But she did come back saying it's the Japanese word for idiot. So I text you just to make sure. Yeah. I don't know what the sussy is, but I guess Walt from Breaking Bad, which my 11-year-old hasn't seen, but he has seen enough memes and heard it referenced enough by
Okay.
the YouTubers he follows. But yeah, so Sussy Baka is probably the most said phrase in our house over like the last several weeks.
Yeah.
It's a fun word to say. It's a fun term to say. So
There, the Japanese language, like or words used by the Japanese are rarely like super offensive. Like, when the Japanese want to say fuck you, they say fuck you.
that's
Kind of a
hysterical.
thing. But I mean, I guess, and like even words like bukake, Jacques, is like, really not it's a very innocent word in Japan.
Yes, I've had that. You've explained that on here.
We talked about this. Yeah.
But still, my favorite thing to do is to walk in the locker room and ask Guitar Center Scotty, what's the Japanese word for bukake? And just the look that he gives me, it's half sad, half exacerbated, and the other half is just, anyways, moving on.
Yeah.
You and I both fans of Patton Oswald.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. Yeah, he had the little recent cancellations. I guess was it Florida where he had a mini tour set up over there, and I guess like 4 out of 5 or whatever of the venues wouldn't comply with his vaccination request for the audience or something like that. I think
he had four tour dates in Florida and one in Ohio because I last night went to see Patton Oswald here in Boston.
Yeah.
And I did not know this until the end of the show where he mentioned it. This was the first night of his new tour.
Right. Yeah.
And it was very funny. This Pakistani woman, lesbian woman comes out, and I presented as a Pakistani lesbian woman because that's how she introduced herself.
Right. Yep.
And she had this whole great routine about how her wife is Jewish and how they make it work and all this stuff.
Right.
And then so she introduces the second opening act. And I was kind of like, yeah, I'm ready for Patton Oswalt at this point. And that woman comes out, and the woman makes a joke that, that she is this, Jewish lesbian woman who ironically is married to a Pakistani woman. Palestinian, I'm sorry, not Pakistani, Palestinian woman. Okay. Big difference. Yeah. Big difference. But anyways, and everybody laughs. It was that other woman's wife. So they're both stand-up comics, and their routines are very much the same, but from the other side of the perspective. And
that's actually pretty cool.
It was very cool. It was very, very cool. I will say it was cool. I'm still not ready to go to events. However, it was mask mandated, and you had to show vaccination cards.
Yeah.
So maybe there was some forged vaccination cards, but I felt a lot better sitting in this theater, knowing that everyone showed vaccination cards and that everybody was masked up. I really did feel okay about it.
You know what's funny is that you should see and I mean, still probably largely is the case, but you should see what audience rules are in Japan, because I actually literally watched so one of my favorite all-female girls bands, they make these weekly videos, and I was watching them introduce the show where the leader of the band comes out before the show and explains to the audience the audience rules for today because of the pandemic. And so basically everybody obviously had to be masked up, but not only do they have to be masked up, there will be no yelling. There will be no vocalizations, so they ask all expressions to be either clapping, banging, stomping, or just, hand waving. I mean, literally, this is talk about, I'm going to kill my own show to comply with essentially COVID, measures.
Right. Oh,
right.
That's got to be a surreal environment. No, but Patton Oswalt, it was the first night of his tour. Yeah. It was raw. He forgot some bits, and which was funny because he's a funny guy shitting on himself. He brought out a piece of paper, and at one point, he's like, in the beginning, he goes, "Yeah, you guys are going to have to get used to seeing this." And he stopped and he would look down at the paper. And at one point, half hour through the show, he just starts laughing. He goes, "I brought out the wrong piece of paper," and everyone laughs. And he goes, I'm not fucking kidding. I actually did. And he goes, and then he starts telling a story from the point of view of an audience member talking about the show like the next day. It's like, yeah. And then he forgot his paper and he went off stage and came back 5 minutes later. And somebody actually, found his paper in the back room and brought it to him. And he does one of these bits. He did a bit. And then what he opened with was on the paper too. And I'm not going to give it away, but he's holding up his paper and goes, I actually wrote that down. His first 5 minutes was this weird, funny, cringeworthy, oh my God, please make him stop, like story type thing, the rabbit hole he fell down. Yeah. But it was great. I mean, and he goes, yeah, he goes, when you guys see this special, like in 6 months from now on Netflix, it's like, it's going to be vastly different. At one point though, he started doing audience work, and he the whole first row, he had this funny exchange with almost everybody, but then tied it into one big story, like linking all these people together. And I said to management, I'm like, that's a 30-year pro right there. Like his making it up bullshit kind of, on the fly stuff. Yeah, no, he's really, really good.
And there's guys that can do, like, there's comics that can do the audience work and the comics that just can't, right? I mean, there's a kind of a stylistic thing, right? I guess it's probably more like just even like in music, right? There are musicians that can just do that improvisation in a way very differently than other, so I mean, there is a kind of a certain art form to that, I imagine, right?
Like almost like a jazz artist. So I saw John Mulaney a couple of weeks ago. He and I really suggest doing this. He was on Seth Meyers the other day, right. And he stayed for 3 segments. Yeah. Biff, it was the most non-male toxicity. Like it was it was so sweet and so touching. And it's like literally at one point they held hands, and not in a joking way. Right, you know what I mean? And because Seth Meyers was part of that intervention that he had, and they talked. Right. And Mulaney worked in like 5 minutes of the routine that we saw, into the Seth Meyers thing. Yeah. But it was really, really good. But I would really highly suggest, on demand, looking up John Mulaney on Seth Meyers, or just finding on YouTube.
What if I don't care about John Mulaney?
You know what? I think you would like this. I think you would this routine.
I mean, he's okay.
It's completely different. This one is so much more honest. Yeah. And his guards down, and you're getting the real guy, not the image guy, which he's been honest about.
Well, so, I guess that there's there's something that happened this week with I just know that it involved Olivia Munn. Something that happened for some reason, all these John Mulaney, Olivia Munn stuff was appearing.
Well, they're having a baby.
Oh, is that all it is?
Yep, that's all it is. That's
is it because he just got divorced, right? Didn't he just get divorced or something like that?
A little while ago, yeah, a year ago. Oh, so and he admit, anyways.
Well, but okay, whatever.
No. But that's why it's like the same thing. It's like he announced it on Seth Meyers, but you would see these clickbait things. It's like, did you hear about Mulaney? It's like, anyway, so I saved you the clickbait shit. Getting into the summer movie list that we had, I watched Aretha Franklin movie. Respect, dude.
Jennifer Hudson, is that right?
Yep. So great. It's long, pack a lunch, like it's like 2.5 hours.
Wow. So did they have like that was I know that I've been really bad about even seeing what's going on with the movies, but so did Jennifer Hudson actually sing the Aretha Franklin parts?
It's funny. I was just talking to management about this in the car, and I'm going to look that up. I do not know. She probably did. I mean, she's an amazing singer.
Yeah, amazing singer. But I was just wondering, in terms of, I mean, obviously that dude from that did the Freddie Mercury thing obviously did not sing Freddie Mercury parts, but I mean there are. I think like what's his face sang the Jerry Lee Lewis parts, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things. She's an amazing singer, but
Dennis Quaid.
But if the producers came and said, "Hey, we're gonna have you lip sync Aretha," she can't be. No one would be like, "Oh no, I can do it better." And I did.
This is so wrong, but the thing that for whatever reason that I really always think about first when people mention Aretha Franklin was there was some, I can't remember what the context was, but there was something where like there was like 5 of the top, singers out on the stage together. I know Aretha Franklin was there and like Mariah Carey was there. But another person who was there was Celine Dion. And there was this one song, and I don't even remember the song, but there was, all 5 of them were on stage together. And there was this one point where Celine Dion tried to kind of cut in front to kind of, feature herself. And like Aretha Franklin is not gonna happen, and just kind of, basically reestablish her place as the queen of that stage. Obviously, as great as the other singers were, I mean, come on, Celine Dion, Aretha Franklin, yeah, we know who the queen is between those two, right?
Do you have the printout? Do you have the rundown in front of you?
I do, yeah.
How did I phrase it next to respect? What did I put? Can you read that?
Always will be the queen, yeah.
Seriously, my introduction to Aretha Franklin, what limited time I spent with my biological dad, some of the positive memories, there's not a lot. It would take me to movies, wildly inappropriate for a 9 or 10-year-old to see. I think 2 or 3 times one summer, I was only out there for a week. We went to see the Blues Brothers 2 or 3 times.
That was a great movie.
And that was that was my introduction to Aretha Franklin.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad just wearing the shit out of that soundtrack. And it was what I've had a really nice week thinking about my dad, because I would say to Alexa, it's like shuffle Aretha Franklin things, because that was one of his favorites. And man, I don't love the 80s and 90s stuff, you know what I mean? It's like, but that stuff from the 60s and the 70s, I mean, she was just but the movie's great, absolutely great. Dude, how fucked up is this? She had a kid when she was 12. 12.
Oh, I did not know that. Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
When she had her second kid,
so tough. Yeah.
14.
Oh,
how crazy is that?
That is tough.
Yeah.
That is tough.
Movie's great.
And the funny maybe not irony once again, but respect is a cover song.
Right.
Right?
But it's funny because like all those artists covered each other. Even today artists covered. But her first like 5 or 6 or 7 albums were on Columbia Records, and it was all jazz standards, and it was all cover tunes. And then when she wanted to break out on her own, it's like they go with this song, and like, and it's funny because somebody's like, well, I thought you wanted to do your own. That's an Otis Redding song. And she said, not anymore. Like, that's a great line. And right. It is. But that was great.
But one of the kind of under the, like people don't know that it's a cover song, kind of a cover song, right? So
right. Same thing. Sinead O'Connor, Nothing Compares to You. I think Prince did first. Or my favorite.
I thought he wrote it for her.
I think you're right. I think he wrote it for her, and then he played it. But my favorite cover tune is David Bowie's China Girl, that Iggy Pop put out on like his first or second solo album like 10 years earlier. And I remember seeing Iggy Pop talk about it. Iggy Pop made more money when that went #1 for David Bowie than everything he had done collectively in music to the 20 years before that.
Not surprising. It's kind of like the Dolly Parton quote about Whitney doing I Will Always Love You, and she goes, she really complimented, and obviously, I mean, there's not a obviously we don't know who Dolly Parton is in real life, but certainly what we see of her, very few people come out as being as decent and as she is, right? But she kind of went and complimented her, and then she goes, and you know what? I love the royalties that come in, because it costs a lot of money to look this cheap. Was her right?
She's one of the best people ever. Ever. So this week was a big week with management and some happy tears and some tears this week. So she started nannying this kid. Right. Her first real nannying thing with this family. Then the boy was 1 year old, 25 years ago. Okay. And right when Blue's Clues came out, and Blue's Clues was a big thing with them, and she had. And so the original host of Blue's Clues had this great video that went out this week. You couldn't not see it.
No, it was terrific. Even so we kind of James never really did the Blues Clues things, but that was never really something that was for whatever reason it wasn't really it just I think it must have been the timing of it, but yeah.
But it was our little guy,
Yeah.
our oldest little guy went through it, but the second one,
Yeah.
it's just struck a chord with him.
Yeah.
And management posted some pictures on
Yeah.
Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah.
He one of the running things in Blue's Clues is the
Yeah.
handy dandy notebook.
Right.
That our little guy Squishy would just honestly pictures, tons of pictures of him gripping it in his sleep, like he literally slept with his handy dandy notebook. But it was nice. It was a real, in a world of one shitstorm after a next, it was really nice that after 25 years that the original host came, and it's funny because he was talking to late 20s people now in that same cadence as the kids. It's like, hey, I know it was really scary when I went away and this is what happened. Dude, but that was big. One of the other big things I've been kind of following this week, and we talked about it a bit in the past, that woman Elizabeth Holmes.
Right.
So her trial started this week.
Yeah.
Dude, one of the things that I thought was really interesting, fans. She has fans who dressed like her. She went
back in the day. She was
No, but who showed up at the trial, like people
outside
the trial. Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And that's going to be an interesting thing. And it's one of those things where you question, was she brilliant or just a complete psychopath? And I think the answer is yes.
Well, I mean, yeah. So I'm not exactly sure, what, the entirety of it. There's almost like a Bernie Madoff kind of a component to it, where it's like all these organizations that threw money at her. It's like what were they thinking, kind of a thing, right? There is a little bit of that, right? So
there is, like, at one point the charade was going to be over. The technology that she was selling, and selling very well, didn't exist.
Right. Yeah.
And it's, again, like, a perfect thing. Like Bernie Madoff, when you see the number of 300-year-old college institutions that threw money at the guy, it's like, of course the Mets got fleeced because they're the fucking Mets. But when you see some of the people got taken by Bernie Madoff, it's like, oh my God, did you guys really? But so that's been an interesting thing. A less interesting thing, and no one can see this, so I will tell you, I'm using air quotes, I was that guy on Twitter this week.
Okay.
Because a comedian I follow, who I like, Dante, funny guy, big social justice, warrior in LA. He had posted that he just finished watching the entire MCU from start to finish.
Okay.
And he's questioning, like, who stole more from more, Game of Thrones or the MCU? And he had a picture of his name is Lovey, Loki's biological birth father. He goes, and he was saying, oh, they both have ice giants, they both have this. And so I wrote, it's like, oh man, are you really making me do this, Dante? Are you making me be that guy? Well, the Game of Thrones books came out in 96. The Infinity Gauntlet, 6-part like series in the comics came out in 91. And most of the stories, which is true, most of the stories from the MCU date back to like 70s and 80s, arcs. Yeah. And I'm like, so I said, the question is, who stole more from who? DC from Marvel or Marvel from DC? And the answer is yes. And I'm like, and then I finished the tweet with, I'll show myself out. Yeah. but it was like, and he forwarded it and liked it. It's like, so it was, but that was my highlight of Twitter this week. And the highlight right now, as you and I record this is the 20th anniversary today of 9/11. And I don't know where you were on 9/11.
I was here, actually. Yeah, I do have a 9/11 story, but go ahead and say your story. So.
No, but it was mine. My 9/11 story. I was living with a friend in North Hollywood.
Okay.
And we got up at 5 to go play hockey, and we were meeting Mr. Taylor and our good friend Zach down at the Reagan Selmar.
Okay.
When I put the stuff in the car and came back to get my then roommate, the first plane had hit the tower.
Okay.
And as we were driving to the rink, and it was like 10 minutes away, it was the worst civilian air thing,
Right.
in
Yeah.
US history. Just as we get to the rink and pull in is when the second one hit. And we got out of our car and sat in Taylor's car,
Right.
maybe for an hour,
Yeah.
just listening to, like, everything. We ended up going in. It's like, well, we're here, let's do our skate. But it was like, I don't think we were out there that long. You know what I mean? Because your head was just, we got in the car. I drove to Santa Monica. With John used to drive all the way out there. And the whole deal is, like, we worked in Santa Monica, my former roommate and I, so that we could carpool. One of us could carpool so he could get there. So he drops me off at the office. I'm in the office maybe 15, 20 minutes. Yeah. Then she gets there and I'm like, yeah, we're going home. Yeah. And I remember the GM of the place, called Point 360, goes, no, it's a regular work day. I'm like, it's not a regular work day. I'm going home. And then for, like, everybody else, I think the next, 16 straight hours, just staring at CNN.
Yeah. So, okay. So that day, I actually had that day scheduled as a day off. And then at around, I want to say 7:30 in the morning or so, or whatever, sometime, around there, I get a call from one of the student workers. And he goes, hey, are you guys coming into work today? And he goes, oh, no, I'm, I have the day off, but, Lori's going in, but I have the day off, what's up? He goes, well, in light of today's events, the president has closed the campus down, so you should not come into work today. And I said, in light of today's events, what are you talking about? And he goes, he's a funny kid. He goes, yeah, perhaps you should turn on the television and tune into a news channel. And so, okay, so I turned on the TV and tuned into probably CNN, right? And then at that point, we see the smoldering first tower, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, right? And then obviously I was kind of with you where I was watching that for a little while, and I'm thinking, I should check on my mom. Like, and obviously there's no reason why I would believe that mom would be anywhere near the World Trade Center. There's no reason for her to go to that neighborhood, but obviously, you want to be sure. And so I spent the entire day trying to call, but of course the phone lines were jammed, and understandably. And I think I finally got through to her, like, towards like maybe 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night, my time. So really towards the evening, I got on the phone with her. And so she tells me about her day, which is that she sees this thing happen on TV, right? And so if you're like, so at the time, what, she would be about 65-ish year old woman. You're living in Manhattan. So you're like probably 4 or 5 miles away from the World Trade Center, but still, she lives in a high rise. So I'm thinking, well, is our all high rises target? Who knows? But so she sees this happening, and she goes, so what does she decide to do? Well, she says, well, this is kind of like this crazy thing going on. So I think, I had to go out and get rice and then exchange the milk that I got the previous day because it was spoiled. And I'm thinking, what? It's like, what? It's like, yeah. So I went to the Japanese market and, got the, the extra bag of rice just to be safe. And then, so apparently the path that she took, she lived near, Central Park. So if New York geography, right, you have that Broadway going down. So like 42nd Street is Times Square. She lived like on the corner of 56th and Broadway, a couple blocks from Columbus Circle. So she was kind of near Times Square, walking north to the kind of the grocery store. I think that was on either 8th or Broadway or whatever, to exchange her milk. And just as she got kind of past Times Square, she heard these loud screams. Now, just based on the timing of everything, I think what happened there was that people were watching the news on the jumbotrons over there, right? And I think that's when the second tower fell or something like that. That's kind of like it seemed like the timing, and so, but of course she doesn't know. So she goes, oh, so I started running with, with everybody else. And I'm thinking, I was kind of amazed that, even at my age, when I have to, the body actually kind of moves. I'm thinking, what? I mean, so, and then she then proceeds to still go to the store to try to exchange her milk. And then and then the lady says, no, we're closing. Go home. And she goes, but what about my milk? It's like, she goes, just keep the receipt and throw the milk away. Come back another day. So it's like, so she goes back, and then she says, well, now she's, what is she gonna do? She doesn't have her milk, but she didn't get her rice. So what does she do? She goes to the top of her building, this high rise, like, whatever, a 40-story, 50-story, whatever. There's one of these, tall buildings. She goes, yeah. So I went to the roof of the building, and you could see the smoke from the the roof of our building. It's like, Mom, you're nuts. It's like, So that was her day on 9/11.
Yeah, it's fucked up that it's 20 years. So yeah. So how old was your little guy when it happened? He was 1, 2?
He was 2. Yeah.
2, right? Yeah. That's just
yeah.
It's crazy to think that it seems like I know it's so cliche, but it happened yesterday,
Yeah.
And my roommate at the time, the next day on the 12th or the 13th was scheduled to fly to Toronto, because originally was going to play for a team in Toronto. But then after 2 or 3 weeks, about, because airlines weren't flying,
right,
that's when her rights got traded to Vancouver, so that she could drive up to Vancouver. So her and her mom ended up driving up to Vancouver, and but that was great. We've talked about 9/11 before with Joe on the podcast, and Joe's 9/11 story is oh gosh, I can't believe I'm blanking on it, but he had a movie due black at Blockbuster, and he couldn't, and it was closed that day, and then he couldn't get there for a couple days, and they still charged him the late fee for not bringing it back, even though they were closed because of that. So that's his tragic 9/11 story. So speaking of
they're gone now. So
who's laughing now? That $8 they got. So last week. So when was it? Yeah. So not this past week. The week before was the boys' first week in school.
Yeah.
And they went like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, had Friday off, Monday off. And it's funny when they went back to school in person here, the oldest one, neither one went back to school. Like the last 6 weeks of school, they didn't go back to in school until like the last 2 or 3 weeks. And the younger one wanted to do in person. But the elementary school and junior high are next to each other. And once they went back to in person last year, it wasn't every day, but at least once a week from each school. But you normally 2 from one from the other, but 2 or 3 times a week, we would get an email saying, oh, somebody tested positive for COVID. You know what I mean? It was like so management and I, were out, jogging the other morning. And I said to her, every time I look down and I get an email from my phone and it's from the school or the little school system, I think, here's a COVID notice. So the first day of school, everything was fine. Yeah. The boys liked being back, but the first day of school, 4:00, 4:30, get an email from the principal of the school. Now they both go to the same junior high, and the principal himself tested positive for COVID after the first day. Nice. And I'm like, he's a really nice guy. And again, one of these guys vaxxed, always has his mask on at school and stuff like that. And the principal, he's a very, hands-on guy. He greets all the students. So I'm like, oh my God, the one guy who sees everybody.
Yeah.
And so that's my COVID update on this coast is I had to show my COVID card to go to Patton Oswald, and the first day of school, my son's principal was COVID positive.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, that thing is just pervasive right now, right? I mean, it's just because it's the Delta variant, and I guess it's right now. I read somewhere that it's like they think it's kind of like right now around 99% of the prevalence of the virus or whatever.
Right.
So yeah. So I guess it's kind of a, obviously, that's what, viruses do, right? They mutate, because the ones that survive the best, right, are the ones that ends up kind of hanging around. So.
And so that's our update. Biff, this is not a joking question. You are a smart guy, very analytical.
Yeah.
How far away is the state government of Texas from the Taliban?
I mean, so like there are these huge philosophical parallels, right? I mean, the difference is the method in which they strong arm is a little bit different, right? Because there's nobody, the government of Texas isn't out with, tanks and jeeps and whatever fully armed to enforce their essentially their political philosophy, if you will, right? So that's kind of the difference, right? But in terms of the just this idea, but regarding some of these desire to essentially control the behavior of the people, there are some similarities, right? I think that the women's thing is very different, because I don't really think that the whole abortion thing is really about necessarily about women as a whole. And the context in which I say that is that if there is essentially a woman who is basically wealthy enough to get the procedure, right? She's gonna get it, and she's not gonna get penalized for it. And maybe even the $10,000 is like, yeah, we've got $10,000, right? So obviously a lot of this is really not about, oh, actually that's just a bounty, so whatever. I guess they could get prosecuted, but I mean, they're not going to prosecute a woman who happens to be the wife of a prominent community person that just happened to not want to have that baby at that time, right?
And wealthy women can just leave the state,
right,
and come back, all that. No, but it's not just that is the worst of it, or maybe it's not the worst of it, but the whole voting bullshit.
Yes,
basically,
that's the thing, right? Yeah, that definitely.
So on one hand, they're keeping poor minorities from being able to vote, and the same governor who says that masks are a personal thing, and that vaccines, like, you can't regulate somebody getting a vaccine. And like he's been very strong the last several months since the vaccines come out about no state mandates, and telling companies that they can't mandate it because it's people's right to choose. But at the same time, the biggest decision of somebody's life. So on one hand, mask is a personal decision. Getting a vaccine is a personal decision. Forced pregnancy, no, I mean, it is the Handmaid's Tales, and it's not an exaggeration. Forcing people to be pregnant, and then on top of that, but
I think it's offensive, because I think they know that they're not really forcing all women to be pregnant. That's the thing.
No, but just middle class and lower women. And then at the same time, the state of Texas last week, you do not need a license, training, or anything to carry a concealed weapon anymore. You don't even need a license in the state of Texas to carry. So when you're like, they're not rolling through the streets without tanks and all that. So you know what? Let's see how this unfolds over the next couple of months. But no, Texas is all. But Texas, and it's tough. That fourth pregnancy thing is the toughest thing. But I'm giving my award for the worst of the worst this week to the company Remington, who I don't.
I mean, obviously,
dude, what the fuck? How do you sit around? And for those who don't know, the company Remington is part of a lawsuit that the people, the victims in Newtown, Connecticut, are going forward with their lawsuit against Remington, the company that made the guns that slaughtered their children. And the company Remington filed a motion that got granted. And I don't, in a million years, other than to just be the worst people ever. And who even thinks about this? They subpoenaed the school records and the attendant records of these kids. They want to find out if, because they do that. Oh, Trayvon Martin, it's like, sure, he was killed, but he got suspended for marijuana 2 weeks before he was killed by the guy. It's like, that was a talking point on like Fox News. Like,
but as I understand it, and this might even be worse, but like, these are damages that they're seeking, right? So when they talk about damages, the idea is that there's a whole component of things like potential future earnings, kind of a thing, right? So the really, we're judging people's value about their by their potential ability to earn, kind of a thing, right? And so there definitely is a component of that exists, and definitely in certain cases, that makes a lot of sense, right? From the standpoint of, if you essentially do something that causes a current, say, a college basketball star, right, to die, then suddenly, there are very tangible or kind of projectable value to this person monetarily, right? Oh, this guy was going to be drafted in the first round and all that, so that you could extrapolate some of that, right? But obviously, to try to extrapolate
this
the
first
values
grader
of kindergarten kids, right? It's like, come on.
That's the sick. That's to
Right?
even think about that. I mean, so the company Remington is the worst of the worst this week, and that's
The problem is, what the problem is that the people who buy Remington, don't really care.
They don't care. No,
Right.
they don't give a fuck.
So it's not really gonna impact them. Like, this publicity isn't going to hurt them.
It was same thing with the George Abbott. Like, the GOP is 100% doesn't give a fuck about governing the state. They're 100%. I mean, it's like this, the last guy who was the president. It's the same thing. They are the president of their party. They don't give a fuck what the other side think. It doesn't matter what the other side think. It doesn't matter how much it hurts the other side, as long as the people that they are, anyways, I got off on a tangent. Speaking of, any word on the recall? How is that going in California? Is it
so it sounds like the current poll numbers indicate that the recall will fail, but we all know how poll numbers have been going the recent years, so who knows, right? I think one thing that does seem certain is that if the recall does succeed, then everybody pretty much expects Larry Elder to become governor. So,
which is so fucking scary.
Well, I mean, to me, the scary part really is what if Feinstein dies, right? That's really the scary part for me.
No, it's awful. It really is. I mean, it's a
and the thing about it is that I really did. For one thing, I think Feinstein. I think the thing that really tipped the scale for me is that, I don't know if you recall.
You mean Pelosi? Feinstein's not the senator anymore.
Oh, no, Feinstein. Feinstein's the senator, right?
Is she the senator? Okay, right. Okay, no, I was thinking, right.
Yeah, right. So,
but he get to a point to know, and he's another anti-science guy. Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, but I mean, that thing's gonna. I mean, it's gonna last for a couple of years, and then he'll probably be voted out anyway. And there's only to some degree, like, politically, right? Even though people, there's a lot of organizations that are sick of a lot of these. We have that COVID fatigue everywhere, and I don't blame anybody for having COVID fatigue, right? But there's only so much that I think he could potentially do in terms of the COVID side of things. I'm just worried more about the fact that, okay, so suddenly you replace Feinstein, who I thought should have not run this time, but whatever. And the reason why I didn't think she should run is really as a result of when she had this horrible exchange with a bunch of little kids who was asking her to consider, I think maybe it was consider the Green New Deal or something.
Right.
And the way she just basically told these kids, yeah, shut up, this is an adult thing, go back to your rooms and color coloring books or something. Like, that was basically the gist of the response. And I said, yeah, you know what, I think you're done.
I think her time's done. No, I you don't want to be ageist, but yeah, like 80-year-old people shouldn't make the decisions that are going to impact the next 50 years of everyone's life. But so we talked about, like, how awful Texas is and all these other things, but what about the crime wave that keeps sweeping Japan?
Well, it was just, so I don't know if you've ever had fruits, so one thing that you really need to do when you do go to Japan is try the seasonal fruits there, because the fruits there is just ridiculous. And obviously people know about the $200 melons and stuff like that, but there are these $20 grapes and $50 apples and whatever the case may be. That kind of stuff runs amok. So when there was an orchard of defenseless pears just totally annihilated, obviously this is the kind of thing that makes national news. So I think that they projected something like $6,000 ish worth of damages, across 2 orchards. And after further investigation, it turns out that some jerk bears were eating the freaking pears. Freaking criminal bears trespassing into orchards and eating this product that this family worked hard to produce for the people of Japan. Stupid fucking bears.
Is there bear insurance? Can you get something, a blanket for Yogi and Boo Boo?
They didn't cover that.
Were the pears on the trees, or were they in picnic baskets at the time?
Was there one really big one and one small one? And
with a hat?
Were they wearing bow ties and hats? Yeah.
I saw the clip and I'm like, of course I didn't know what was going on, but I did check out the clip. We're going to do, I'm going to play Self Indulgent Theater only because it came in my head the other day. Our friend Jim, Joe came up with this jingle when he used to come on the show every once in a great while. But anyways, this week's Self Indulgent Theater is the Jim jingle from 2017. I don't know. I'll look it up. Here it is.
Jim's on the podcast. Ooh, Jim's sitting right here. Ooh, Carnival personnel won't be the same. Jim is joining the podcast. Joining the podcast. Who voted for Trump? Jim, he's joining the podcast. Though he should be ashamed, cause this podcast is lame. Jim is his name. Jim.
All right, now on to sports. First of all, I've not watched anything related to anything with sports in a while. I don't even listen to the radio. I will say, a couple days before the season started, I said, okay, I'm going to turn on sports radio. And I listened to sports radio for 10 minutes. I guess the Red Sox are in the middle of a big COVID brouhaha. So I guess the Red Sox, who are a playoff contender right now, they're in the wild card spot. The COVID's ripping through the locker room, which I still can't believe that Major League Baseball didn't say, oh yeah, you want that $30 million paycheck? Fucking take the fucking COVID. Because if I'm an owner of a team, it's like, wait a minute,
take the COVID,
take the shot. Like, again, if you can't take the shot that Dolly Parton spent her money helping develop, then, you don't deserve to play Major League Baseball. But somebody from Red Sox management was on the radio or did an interview, and he said a few days back that Major League Baseball has asked the Red Sox to stop testing so that they can field a team, a playoff worthy team. The Major League Baseball, let's face it, Major League Baseball wants the Red Sox in the playoffs. They're a marquee team worldwide. But the fact that they're losing so many players down the stretch to COVID, and Major League Baseball
doesn't exist if you don't test it.
Right. Major League Baseball. Yeah, the last guy who was president kind of tried to go with that theory. So Major League Baseball kind of said, well, we didn't say it like that. And the Red Sox said, yeah, that's kind of how it is. And then lo and behold, the next day, the Red Sox, their big pitcher, I can't remember his first name, Sales, who's supposed to pitch, who's supposed to pitch yesterday. Yeah, he's on a 14-day COVID list. So, but now the big thing is,
how could they not see this coming?
Yeah, it's just weird, right? Unvaccinated people sitting in a dugout together. And anyways, so I've not followed anything with the NFL. I didn't watch the opening game. I generally don't watch other people's games. I'll watch a little Tampa Bay this year, but it hurts to see Brady throwing to Gronk in another uniform. But I couldn't help, whether you listen to sports radio or watch any TV, but the news briefs come on. I guess Brady opened the season by throwing for almost 400 yards and 4 touchdown passes, and
including last minute game winning drive, right? So yeah, I did not watch the game either, and the reason why I didn't watch the game was because of because of the freaking courts is the reason why. But I just 2 minutes. I was using this streaming service called Lowcast, which was technically a nonprofit voluntary service that lets you see local channels via streaming. And then for whatever the I don't know what the details are, but the court said, yeah, they can't operate. So literally like Tuesday or so, Monday or so, they abruptly shut down. Is it? And the apps closed. Everything just died abruptly, and I was done. And so that's what I would have used to watch Thursday night game, and I didn't have that, so I didn't watch it.
So it's just unbelievable. He's 44 and not slowing down at all. I mean, it's week one. It's week one, so we'll see what happens.
Those things, right? Like where like
how can he still be this good?
It's not so much that as much as I think the thing that really annoys me more than anything else is that all of the people that insist that he's going to suck this year or whatever. It's like, you know what, that's going to be true. He's not going to play forever. We all know he's not going to play forever.
We don't right? We don't know that.
No, we do know that. But really, I don't know why people have to insist that that they have to predict his demise, right? And it is the idiocy of sports radio and sports talk shows where all these people have to, it's one thing for, let's say, athletes who were in the game kind of describe, if like a former quarterback who played, like let's say they bring out, Vinny Testaverde and said, what I can tell you is that by the time I was 35 and playing, this is what changed in my, in my career, my life, my routines, everything, whatever. And so I expect Tom to eventually, have these kinds of things happen. I think those are very, legitimate conversations, right? But when you have these idiots who've never seen the inside of a huddle telling us when Brady is going to start to suck, I mean, this is the problem that I have with all of these sports talk and sports radio and everything else. All these people who know nothing about this.
And then there's just the hatred. People love to hate.
Yeah,
I remember Chris Sims. This is like 4 or 5 years ago. Both, I think all three teams, I think the Jets, Bills, and Miami all use first round picks for quarterbacks.
Right.
And Chris Sims had Brady ranked the third best quarterback in the AFC East, and he was on like a sports show justifying it, saying, well, this guy scrambles and this kid's arm and blah, blah, blah. And I think that was one of the years that might've been the year that he the Atlanta Super Bowl, and it was like, it was 6 years ago that Max Kellerman made the big, he's going to fall off the cliff.
Yeah, well, Max, I mean,
no,
so
but
I think I want to go back to Chris. I want to go back to Chris Smith.
Chris Sims.
You know what? I'm not even going to recognize anything that Max Kellerman says. He knows nothing outside of boxing. So, but as Chris Sims is a guy who played the sport, right? And for somebody like that to be doing that, it's like, yeah, come on, guy. I mean, really? Come on, guy. So,
like I said, that's 6 years ago. But anyways, so do you have any NFL predictions? We usually do a whole NFL breakdown, but nope. I'll say the Patriots go 10-6 and losing the wild card.
That's a pretty bold prediction, but they're what's it, Mac Jones? Is that their quarterback? Yeah, I mean, he's projected to be pretty good, right? So hopefully that works out for them. But whatever. I mean, I don't care about that much about the NFL anymore. No.
So. Is Roethlisberger even playing?
He is.
For your Steelers.
Yeah. They were just this whole thing where he was publicly pushing for an extension for his teammate TJ Watt, so JJ Watt's younger brother.
Oh, interesting. So. And what about did Aaron Rodgers? Is Aaron Rodgers on a team this year? Did he?
He's playing. He's there's still a question whether how long he'll be there and blah blah blah. But he'll. But play,
he worked it out.
Fine.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think that they worked it out, but I mean, he's gonna play and they'll be fine, right? So we'll see.
So what is going on in the NHL? That the Coyotes got booted, I see.
Yeah, well, so essentially the city of Glendale sent them a letter saying, yeah, we're divorcing. So, and it's a weird situation where this has been going on for a long time, where there's been this friction between the Coyotes and the city of Glendale and the arena and everything else, and the local fans don't like the fact that the stadium, the arena is there. It's like, kind of imagine if you're in LA and the LA Kings go on to new ownership and they decide, and our arena is going to be in in Rancho Cucamonga. So you're like, 50 miles east of this, center of the city or whatever. And so nobody goes to the games because nobody goes to Rancho Cucamonga on a weekday to go watch a hockey game, right? The Kings work because, hey, guess what? They're in the middle of downtown LA, right? People will go there. The Ducks work because they're in middle of, downtown Anaheim, they're middle of Anaheim. It works, right? And I think that's the issue with Glendale and Phoenix, right? Everybody's in Phoenix. They want something that's more downtown. So people are quick to say that, this is the first step towards the relocation to Houston, which
Houston, interesting.
Yeah, that's been one of the discussions that they've been, like a lot of the people are thinking, Houston might be a future home, but I think that they probably don't want to move the team out of Phoenix. So I think that definitely Bettman will try to keep that team there. And the reason why I believe that is, if you look at his history, it's like they had an NHL. The NHL ran that team for a couple of years.
Yes,
they kept it in. They could have just said, "Hey, team franchise up for sale. You could locate it anywhere in the West."
Somebody tried to buy them and bring them to Hamilton, Ontario, but both the Leafs and the Sabres were like, "Yeah, fuck that,"
Yeah, I mean, they shouldn't have blocked that, but certainly the Leafs should not have blocked it. But whatever.
Yeah, the Leafs aren't going to lose any fan base, but people in Hamilton might be more Leaf fans, but go to more Sabre games because they can get the tickets.
Yeah.
Put them in Quebec. But yeah, I forgot that the league actually for a few years, I think it was more than 2 years, they owned that team. Dude, that is hysterical.
And then one more thing in sports, US Open tennis.
Yeah,
I don't know if you know the finals is like essentially all of the top seeds got upset in the earlier rounds, and so we're dealing with a final between two teenagers, right? So
that's interesting.
Yeah, you have so I don't know too much about Raducanu, who's an English player. The other one is a woman named Leila Fernandez, and she's from Canada. But apparently Raducanu was also born in Canada. So it's this crazy whatever, it's a good year for women's sports in Canada.
I would say so.
Yeah. So, if I wasn't doing this podcast, I'd probably be watching that right now.
Well, we'll wrap it up then pretty soon. Do you, you what have you been watching this past week?
I've been watching Kim's Convenience.
Oh, is that great?
It's actually pretty funny, and there's a component of it. And so you guys haven't watched it?
No, it's on management's list of something she wants to watch together.
Yeah, I thought it's because it is a Korean.
That's why
family,
she wants to watch it. Yeah.
Right? It'll probably be more familiar to her. I mean, there are definitely parts of it that apply to me also. But yeah, it's hilarious. And the what is it, Sumi Liu? Is that his name? The dude from Shang-Chi.
Right. Oh,
right.
Dude, we have to talk about him for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
We have to talk about him for a second. So I don't know if you follow management. She put it on Twitter or Facebook, but that dude is fucking hilarious.
He is. Yeah.
So I guess years ago when he was starting out acting and modeling, he did stock photo work.
Oh yeah, that's funny. I just sent that tweet to my son a couple of days ago.
Okay. And so
then people started photoshopping it. Have you seen that?
Well, he started photoshopping. He did. He actually took one of the pictures of him, and it's like some business, a casual attire with a couple coworkers pointing at something on a computer screen, and he put out the meme. This is us laughing at people who thought the 10 rings were going to fail. Like, it's a picture of him that because other people have been doing that. And he's like, yep, I got $150 a day and people can do whatever they want with those photos. Yeah. Dude, first of all, we're going to go see that in the theater. Management wants to be supportive and actually, shell out to see that in the theater. So we're going to go see that this week.
Okay.
Well, she usually doesn't work on Monday, so we'll do like an 11 o'clock on Monday
Right.
when we're the
Yep,
only
yep.
two in there for like $8.
That's
But
cool. Yeah.
but yeah, no, that guy is hysterical. So he's in it though. So I will check. I didn't even know he was in Kim Convenient. Even
Yeah.
more reason to watch it.
Yeah, no, and he's funny,
That's
you know.
That is awesome. No, what we've been watching, we're getting caught up on, of course, Marvel's animated series, What If? It's okay. It's like, what if, what were some of the what ifs? What if instead of Peter Quill, in the Guardians of the Galaxy, they came down and took T'Challa from Wakanda. like how would that have impacted the universe? Or if Captain America, wasn't Steve Rogers and it was Peggy Carter. Like if Peggy Carter,
What if the spider bit the teacher instead?
right? It's so we've been. They're fun. They're fun. They're light, but they're fun. But that's what we've been doing. You got a parenting tip?
Oh, my son started a new job, and so it's one of those deals where, so I would say that, whatever job that they're doing, try to be supportive if they're trying to, take that step towards. And obviously, his job is fine, but just in general, I think you want to be as supportive as as you can as the child goes through their first real job. I mean, he had these side jobs kind of things when he was in high school and stuff like that, but this is actually kind of a job that he kind of he's trying to work in with his alongside his his classes. So just be supportive over that kind of stuff.
Nice. So my parenting tip this week, I told you the little guy is still on the Karate Kid Cobra Kai thing. And we were at the management and I were at the mall a couple weeks ago. And in the last season of Cobra Kai, Johnny started a new dojo called Eagle Fangs. And we saw an Eagle Fang t-shirt in there.
Yeah, sure.
And we got it for him. And we also got him the pop-up figures of Daniel and Johnny. And put it out in the shed in the secret Christmas box. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I was in the store with him the other day. We were getting a couple things like some back to school stuff.
Yep.
And he sees the Eagle Fang shirt. He goes, Papa, I really want it. I'm like, okay, buddy, then let's get it. I mean, I wasn't gonna like, hey, no, we already got it for you. You got to wait a couple of, so my thing is, it's like, look, my parenting tip, it's like, eat the $10 or $20 or what it is. It's such a small window that he's really going to be into something like this and he'll remember getting
there
it.
You go.
So you know what? And he, his little friend came over the other day. They watched Cobra, who she had watched Cobra Kai, but she hadn't watched Karate Kid. So we rewatched Karate Kid. It's the third time I've seen Karate Kid in the last 2 months. And it was a lot of fun. But I'm like, we'll probably wrap it and give it to her for Christmas. But that's my big thing. But that's it for me, Biff. If you got any final thoughts, I'll let you close out.
Well, this being the 20th anniversary week of 9/11, and obviously for those of us who were alive at the time and kind of watched all that craziness unfolding, I think it taught us a lot of things about us and America and all that stuff. So I just want you all to don't forget